Welcome to Fix It Home Improvement, covering projects that every homeowner should know and great products for home and garden.
Hi, I'm JC, and this is where we share weekly home improvement tips. I'm here with my co-host, Cindy.
Hello, JC.
Hi, Cindy. Today we're going to be talking about low-voltage landscape lighting. We wanted to thank You Know You Want It, who gave us a 5-star rating and review on iTunes. In this episode, we're going to focus mainly on the basic 12-volt systems. So these are very easy to install. They're safe. You're just plugging this transformer into an outlet outside, and then it's...
Well, why don't you start with what low voltage lighting is instead of just nobody calls it low voltage lighting.
What do they call it?
Well, like it's Malibu lighting, outdoor lighting. You know what you have around your patio or your walkways.
All right.
Or your
So this is landscape lighting that is using a low voltage transformer. So it's stepping down 120 volts, which is a typical outlet, and that transformer is reducing that power down to 12 volts. So it's very safe. It's safe around kids, around pets. You can actually leave the wiring on while you're doing this lighting. So very, very safe. And what's nice about this low voltage system is it's using just basic, very small incandescent, halogen, and LED bulbs.
Right.
And what's wild is Thomas Edison developed his first incandescent bulb in 1879, and he had over 1,000 patents in the U.S. And then the first halogen lights weren't developed until 1955, and then the first LED lights weren't, or the first LEDs, which created light, weren't developed until 1961, and IBM used them in their old computers for their punch card readers.
Oh, really?
That's pretty wild, huh? And then the first spiral CFLs, as long as we're on bulbs here, weren't...
Which we're really not.
They were developed in 1976.
And you could also listen to our light bulb episode to find all this information.
But more. And more. Now, if you're thinking about putting a few of these lights around your house in your landscape area, or maybe throwing some floodlights against your house to use it as an accent, you can buy these kits that have a group of lights. They have the transformer and the wires all in one kit. And what's nice about this is, they have kits with 4 lights or 6 lights, 12 lights, and everything's matched. So the transformer has to match the draw of the lights. And so what's nice about buying these kits, you can get LED kits, and this is wild. Like there's some kits that have 6 lights, and it's only using a 40-watt power pack, because these LED lights are only drawing like 1 watt of power.
Wow.
So just very cool. And the LED stuff is going to be a little more expensive up front,
Right.
but it uses less energy. And then you can get regular incandescent kits that are going to use like 150 watts to 300 watts. In that range is probably pretty typical. But that's a very easy way to start your low lighting.
All of these parts are sold individually, though.
Right. So you can go to the hardware store, you can get a transformer, the lights, you can pick them out, exactly what you like, what appeals to you, the color, the shape, the size, and then a cable. So it's pretty easy. And then you just plug in your transformer into an outlet. It's going to step it down. The most common transformer is going to step it down to 12 volts, easy to work with, safe, energy efficient. The thing you need to plug it into, though, is a GFC outlet, so a ground fault circuit interrupter. And you want
a GFCI.
A GFCI. What did I say?
GFC.
Right. All right. And if you're buying a GFCI, you'd want to make sure that you buy one that's marked WR for weather resistant. And then you also need a bubble cover. So this is the new code on outdoor outlets, a bubble cover, so that you can actually plug in the cord to the transformer and you can close that bubble cover, and it's going to be safe in any kind of weather.
Is that the technical term for it?
Bubble cover?
Yes.
That's all I've ever called it. I don't know. That's good. I'll look it up.
Okay.
If it's different, you'll hear about it in an upcoming episode. And then for the transformer itself, you can get a photocell, and this turns on and off at dusk and dawn. You can get a photocell with a timer, so it's on at dusk, and then you can set it to stay on for 4, 6, 8, 10 hours. And then you can get just a timer, so it's either going to be analog or digital. And they come in a variety of wattage ratings, so you're going to have to match the total amount of watts of what your bulbs are going to be drawing to the transformer. So you're going to see transformers that are 45, 120, 200, 300, up to 600 watts.
Wow.
So the first thing you need to do is lay out how many lights you want. So you're going to want to pick the type, you're going to add up all of the watts, and then pick a transformer that's about 70 to 90% of that rating. Or if you're thinking about doing landscaping in phases, like we had talked about previously about working on our landscape beds, kind of doing different areas over a period of years, you might want to think about getting a larger transformer, and then we can add lights to this over a period of years. And if you're doing landscape lighting in your front yard and backyard, you can actually split it up with 2 different transformers rather than just running one long cable all the way around the house. And then just a kind of a tip for deciding how many and where you want to place them is at night. If you have a helper, you can take a flashlight, so you're standing out front, and then you can have your helper take a flashlight and shine it on shrubs and trees and kind of wash the side of the house. You know, maybe an architectural design you like on your house that you'd want to show some light on. And it's kind of an easy way to pick where you want to place your lights and how many.
So what, have them stand like in the bush?
Yeah, in, around, laying on the ground, sure.
So this is something you should do with your kids when they're small?
And your work clothes.
When you're purchasing the landscaping lights, you have a choice whether you're purchasing the individual lights or the kits of what type of light bulb it's going to take.
Right. And if you get standard incandescent, it's going to have a life around 1,000 hours. Mm-hmm. What's weird about standard incandescent, they're only converting about 5% of the energy that they're using to produce the light. Wow. 95% of it is heat, which is wild. Halogen, they have a life around 2,000 hours. It's 20% more efficient than standard incandescents. Xenon is a replacement for halogen, so you'll see a lot of these replacement xenon. It's Xenon, so you can replace this for your halogen bulbs.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
And what's wild about them, so halogen, 2,000 hours. The xenon, 10,000 hours.
Wow.
Really wild. And they're 30% more efficient than a standard incandescent. And halogen and xenon are really just different types of incandescent light, but the gas that's in there is slowing down the oxidation on the filament, and they're actually using less energy. And then the xenon is more expensive than halogen, but it isn't as delicate, so it doesn't get as hot. So if you grab the outside glass bulb, it's not going to affect the glass bulb.
So like the oils from your skin?
Right. So with halogen bulbs, it's wild. Like you can actually cause that glass to explode.
Right.
If you grab it with your fingers, and the oils, that creates a hot spot that can shatter the bulb.
Yeah, you think they'd work on that?
Yeah, what a weird scene. Huh?
Well, I guess they did. They make the xenon.
Yeah, there you go. Then LEDs, they're going to have a life of 20 to 30,000 hours, and they're 80% more efficient than standard incandescents. So one study I saw, they took a 10-light system with 1-watt LED bulbs, and then, or LED lights, so it's not actually a bulb, it's a light-emitting diode, versus a 7-watt incandescent, and they saved $200 in a 5-year span running these 6 hours a night.
Wow.
So depending on the cost of your electric, it definitely will save you some money.
So these light kits are going to be more expensive.
Initially.
Right, but you're not going to spend as much on energy and replacing the light bulbs.
Right, they're rough and tough. Yeah, you're not. And what's weird is many of these kits, they're not designed to ever be replaced.
The LED ones?
Right, yeah.
Right.
So you really need to look at that. And with LED lights, so a 1-watt LED is as bright as a 7-watt incandescent, and a 7-watt LED is as bright as a 20-watt incandescent. The old way to rate brightness was watts in the U.S., so that's the way we always looked at it. But watts is really just telling you how much energy is being used for that light bulb.
Right.
And watts, it was named after a Scottish scientist named James Watt in 1882.
Good to know. What's the new way to measure light then?
So now it's lumens, and that's really what the standard around the world. So lumens is actually the amount of light produced. So in the U.S., companies are trying to phase out ratings referring to wattage as the light output because it's not an accurate way to do it. So the Federal Trade Commission is helping develop these new labels for light bulbs, and it's like an infographic. It has the brightness in lumens, the yearly cost, the life expectancy, the light appearance, so this is kind of a new thing in the U.S., Kelvin, so
right.
the color of the light, and then how much energy is used. And just to give
still, if you're looking at a light bulb, you're like, I want a 40-watt bulb, right?
Right. But you really need to be thinking, as far as the light output, you really need to be thinking like how many lumens. So like a 40-watt light bulb.
But if you were going to go to the store today to buy a light bulb,
I would say, sir, do you have something in a 450 range of lumens?
Yes, I'm sure.
and make it snappy. So just to give you a feel, so 20 lumens would be the same as a 4-watt night light. 200 lumens is a 25-watt bulb, kind of the equivalent. And then we know the 40, of course, 450 lumens.
Right.
A 60-watt bulb is giving off about 800 lumens. A 75-watt bulb, 1,100 lumens. And a 100-watt bulb is about 1,600 lumens. So
if you go into a hardware store and you say, I want 1,600 lumens, they're going to direct you right there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
Nailed it.
Anybody who's worked with us, yes. Yeah. So what's funny is you may see on some of these labels foot candles for the brightness.
What?
And so this is an old-fashioned way of, and this based the
There's a lot of information on these labels now, isn't there?
Yes. So the way they used to measure the amount of light was 1 candle power was a candle throwing a 12-inch square of light at 12 inches. That was considered 1 candle power, and that's equivalent to 1 lumen. And then you can also see candle power is kind of an old-fashioned term. Now they call it candela. I can see you're fascinated by this part of the podcast.
So you're still going to say I want a 40-watt light bulb, right?
No, not me, no. So when you're thinking about picking and laying out your lights, if you're picking LEDs, you're going to be looking at how many watts they're drawing. So 1 watt is pretty popular. You're going to see 2.5 and 7. And then with incandescent halogen, probably the most popular are 4, 7, 11, 20, and 35.
Are you going to give that in lumens too?
So we're not worried about lumens now. We're just worried about how many watts, and we're going to decide how many lights we're going to have, and that's going to help guide us to what transformer we're going to be purchasing.
Let's talk about the different styles of lights.
So you probably there's 4 main types. You're going to have a style that just throws light straight down, and this is primarily for walkways, for steps. You're kind of outlining your driveway maybe,
right,
or around a landscape area. You have backlight, and this is throwing light sideways. So it usually looks tiered, and it's going to throw light really nice for a driveway, for trees, for shrubs, for flowers. And then spotlights and floodlights. You're going to wash this light on a wall. You're going to point it up to highlight a tree or flowers. Some people like to shine it across a fence to give nice shadow effect. And then you have your specialty lights. So you can get these deck lights, which are pretty cool. So you cut a hole in the center of the riser of each of your stairs, and you're running your cable behind this. And so you're illuminating your stairs, on decks. They have really cool posts, toppers.
Right.
So 4x4 and 6x6, this light will go right on the top of your posts. And then they have specialty things that you can put on walls. When you're looking at the fixtures, you can get plastic or metal. Plastic is inexpensive, but over time, the weather, sunlight breaks them down. Metal, a little more expensive, but it's going to last the longest. And then if you want the best blend of durability and cost, they have plastic and metal where, the main parts on top that are going to get hit by rain and sun are metal, and then the other parts are plastic. So that's probably your best blend, depending on the style you like.
Even if you're worried about your animals chewing on them.
No. Lousy raccoons.
Yeah, or dogs.
The last key element is going to be our cable, and we need to match the cable to the amount of voltage that we're drawing. And this cable is going to be a low voltage cable. It's weather resistant, it's insulated, very easy to work with. You can bury it a couple inches underneath the earth, or you can just cover it with landscape material. And I would pick lights that use these self-piercing clips that's going to allow you to take these wire leads from the light itself and clip it into this main cable, which it really makes it easy. So it has self-piercing little pieces of metal that just...
so you don't have wire connectors or anything going on?
Very cool, very cool. These new ones are great. if you're looking at a
This used to be a real hassle.
Yeah,
right?
you used to have to cut into it and then create little pigtails.
Like even 20 years ago. I mean, it was
Absolutely.
a real nightmare putting in landscape lighting.
Homeowners didn't enjoy doing it, and they thought it was too complex, and they hated buying the outdoor weather-resistant wire connectors because they were filled with silicone,
Right.
expensive. It kind of takes a little learning curve to use them. So now, very easy. You're just clipping these leads right onto your main cable. Very easy to do. A 16-gauge cable is going to carry 150 watts, a 14-gauge cable, 200 watts, and a 12-gauge cable, 300 watts. If you think you're going to add more lights in the future, I would get a larger transformer and then just go with a 12-gauge cable, and then you're kind of covered for any future lights.
What are the steps to installing these lights?
So now that we've decided how many lights we want, we know the type, we know how many watts each one's drawing, we're matching that total watts to the transformer, and now we're going to attach the transformer to the house. You want to keep the bottom of the transformer about 12 inches above the ground, and we're going to plug this into a weather-resistant GFCI outlet, or one that's protected by a GFCI, and then it has a bubble cover, the fancy bubble cover. And we're going to attach it to the house. If you have brick, I would put it into the mortar in between the brick. I would hate to break the face off the brick, which
I'm sure everybody would hate that.
so I would say if you're mounting it to your house and you're using, let's say, plastic anchors, I would use a concrete drill bit, pre-drill into your grout lines between the brick, and you're going to attach it like that. If you want to attach it to a stake, I would use a 2x6. And then I would get treated wood, something that's rated for ground contact. And you're going to want to pound this about 2 feet into the ground. So what I would do is I would probably cut it down to maybe 4 feet and then use that scrap piece to put on the top of your stake. And you're going to take a circular saw, you're going to cut the bottom into a V shape so it pounds easily. You're going to take that scrap piece of wood onto the top of the stake and then pound that so that you don't crack the top of this. Pound it down, attach your transformer, and then I would use the saw and cut it off just above the transformer. So that's just an easy way to attach it. Now you're going to lay out all your lights where you want them, and you're going to take your cable starting at the transformer. Most manufacturers want this first light about 10 feet from the transformer. So look at your manual first. You're going to lay this cable loosely around, and then if your cable is too long, let's say you had to buy a roll where you have a lot of excess, you can either cover this underneath your landscape material or you can cut off the end. So if you plan on adding lights in the future, just bury it.
Right.
If you want to, if this is it, I mean, you love your layout, just cut the end off. You don't have to worry about capping it or taping it. You just don't want any of those wires loose, so you need to cut it square. And then at the transformer itself, you're going to, so this cable is really 2 wires that are fused together, and you can pull these apart so that you have now 2 separate insulated wires. You're going to strip about 3/4 of the insulation. You're going to twist these stranded wires together so no strands are loose. And then you're either going to have a screw terminal, which you're going to put this wire on, or you're going to slip it underneath metal plates. Really depends on your transformer. And then you're going to attach each light to the cable. So most just snap onto the cable with these self-piercing clips, and I would recommend that.
Yeah.
Really, that's about all there is to it.
What if you just don't want to cover up the cable, you want to bury it?
Okay, so I would use a landscape spade. That's one of those flat-ended trenching spades. Just dig it into the ground 2 or 3 inches. You're going to tuck your cable into it. You could use either a plastic or a wood stirring stick so that you don't damage the cable, just to push in. And then you're just going to put dirt over it, or if you're in a landscape area, just push your landscape material over that. Very, very easy to do, very easy to work with.
What about solar landscaping lights?
So the new solar, they're getting much better with the batteries.
Right.
And then with LEDs. I mean, so now, where the old ones, the batteries had to push a lot more energy to light up the lights, and everybody used to complain.
Right.
I mean, we got so many returns of these solar lights.
Well, I think part of it was everybody was so excited that it was going to be so much easier than before.
Right, exactly.
And then the problem was there was no light coming out of them.
Right, they were terrible. But I've seen the ratings on some of the new LED solar lights, and they're very bright for what they are. They last much longer, and they come in some really cool ornamentals too. So you can get path lights, and then you can also get just accent lights, so they look like flowers or frogs or
Right.
all kinds of crazy little things.
Well, a lot of holiday lighting too. What are some top-rated companies?
So I was looking at top rated, but the more I researched, there's really three main players at the most popular hardware stores. So at Lowe's, they carry Portfolio. At Menards, they carry Patriot. And then Home Depot and most local hardware stores are going to be carrying Malibu. And then, you know what I saw with Portfolio? They've got these Bluetooth audio low voltage lights. So very cool. You can link your smart device and play music. So the lights actually have built-in speakers. And so if you're outside and you're having a party, you link up your smart device to your low-voltage light system, and you can play music and stuff, or podcast. You can listen to Fix It Home Improvement outside with your guests.
Or at Halloween, you could play music. Spooky music.
Yeah, so very cool.
Do you have anything else to add?
What's nice is you can mix and match fixtures. So if you like a couple halogen lights, and let's say they have an LED spotlight that you really like, and it uses very low energy, you can mix and match all of these different lights on the same transformer. You're just adding up the watts and making sure you don't go over the rating for the transformer.
Wow, that's nice.
And then you could also mix and match plastic and metal. So if you have, let's say, your path or your landscape area where you have some really decorative fixtures, and then they have a couple inexpensive LED floods that are kind of be hidden.
Right.
You can mix and match those too. And then I would really look at the company and look at their LEDs. Are they replaceable, or when the LED goes bad, do you have to change the whole fixture? Because that can be expensive if you can't get replacement LEDs.
Let's wrap this up.
So we finished the book, and it's going to the editor this week, so I'm excited about that.
Yeah, me too.
So if you would like to subscribe to our podcast, you can subscribe on iTunes or Stitcher.
If you enjoyed it, please leave us a review.
You can check out our home improvement videos on our YouTube channel, Fix It Home Improvement.
And you can subscribe there as well.
If you'd like to email us, you can email us at fixitpodcast@gmail.com.
Thank you for listening.
Talk to you next week.
Thank you.